All right, looks like we're live. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. I'm Charlotte Smith with 3Cow Marketing and The Profitable Farm, where we practice farm marketing from the heart, or heart-centered farm marketing, where you really get to know your customers deeply, and which then they become really loyal to you. So everything I teach is from that foundation. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me and giving me the time in your day to review this information. What I wanted to talk about today is our method or our procedure for when we do drop sites or deliveries. And we have a farm store that's open 5 days a week on our property, and we've been doing that. The first 7 years, that's the only way we sold. So we just sell everything out of our farm store. And then as our business has grown and our inventory has grown, we always realized there was a group of people in the outer, that are a little beyond an hour away in Portland, that were interested in our products, but just would not make the trek out to the farm store. So we thought we would add one drop per quarter. So every 3 months we do a drop to far out Northeast Portland that allows those people, even we get some people from Hood River and Gresham that will drive in that far, but they aren't going to make the 2-hour drive to the farm store, for instance. So that's really kind of supplemented our growth as well. So I wanted to share that process with you because it's really organized, and it's now my way is not the only way, but maybe there are some things that I do that you could take that would help you, or you might tweak your own process. It is possible to have your whole model, like if you don't have a farm store, for instance, your whole model could be drop sites. If you're, sorry, my nose keeps itching. If you live far enough, I get emails from farmers who are a couple hours or sometimes more from a major metropolitan area and just don't have much opportunity for sales near them. Maybe you're going to do a once a month drop or something like that. So it doesn't have to look like mine. It can look any way you want it to. The key is to make it really simple. The other thing to really keep in mind is it's expensive to deliver. So make sure that you've figured out your costs involved and the time it's going to take, and that you've compensated for all of that. Or you won't make it. So I hear from a lot of farmers who said we started delivering, then we had to cut it off because it was costing us so much money to do that. So make sure you take care of that up front. We do that in a few different ways, and I'm going to go through our process here in a second. Is that all I needed? Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and switch to slides that kind of give you guys hopefully the big view that it can be an addition to your farm store, or your whole business can be maybe based around a monthly drop. But I'm going to switch over to slides right now because we have this wonderful new technology that just became available where I can share slides from my computer and actually do this training with you. And the other thing is you don't have to take notes today because we put all our notes and the step-by-step procedure, the process I use, in a download for you. It's just 3 pages total. And it gives you exactly what I'm going to talk about today. So if you want the checklist, go to 3cowmarketing.com/delivery, or if you're watching the recording, the link will be right there too, and you can download that PDF and have the process right in front of you. All right, so let's get started on the slides. The first thing when you're doing a delivery or a drop, you have to have a very clear way for them to order. And one really key thing to remember is if you confuse people at all, if you confuse them, you lose them. So if they are at all confused about the process, they aren't going to order. They're just going to, look the other way. So from the start, you have to make it very, very simple on them. Now, we use a form right through our WordPress website. If you have a Squarespace website, they have a form built into it as well. And then on our resources page on the download, we have other things listed, ways you can create your own order forms. But you'll need a way for them to order your products. And online is always best because probably most likely these people are far away from you. So, it would be confusing by email. So create this order form that you can email to your list, of course, and it's very simple. And then list all of the products that you can deliver to them. Now, there are some things we can't deliver in Oregon by law. For instance, raw milk and custom meat. So a quarter cow or a half hog, I cannot deliver those. So I make that very clear that they aren't, that's why they're not listed on there. And that just avoids a bunch of emails from people saying, oh, can you bring me my half hog I ordered? You know, we make that clear on there. But what is very clear is the products we can order, which are all our USDA meats, the steaks and chops and roasts and bacon and things like that. And I clearly explain that process too, that, you know, tells them how to place their order and walk through that. Because again, it has to be very simple and clear or they won't order at all. And then this is just an example here of what our order form looks like. As you can see, it's nothing fancy. It's just very super simple. It just tells them exactly what to do. So the cuts are listed below. Here's the price, 2 steaks per package, 1 to 2 pounds per package. We don't do exact poundage, so they are not going to know the exact weights. We just tell them to, you know, think it through in their head. And they will know the final bill at delivery, or they can email ahead of time once we pack it and we can send them the final total. But most people don't care. They can figure out approximately what it's going to cost. So this is just an example of what our very simple order form looks like. And then you want to price accordingly. Like I said, you've got to figure for your time in there. For one, we have a minimum order of, it depends on where we're going, but it's either $500 or $1,000 minimum for us to order, because that's, you know, we're going to make 1,000 or 1,500 in our farm store that day. So if we're going to not be there, we've got to make at least that much. And total, yes. We add $1 per pound to our meats to cover the delivery costs. But it's really important from a psychological standpoint that you don't say that we add $1 per pound to cover delivery costs. You just build it in there. So if you come to our farm store, everything's going to be $1 per pound cheaper, but nobody notices that because our customers don't look at the price, because we don't market based on price. We market based on, you know, the problems we solve for them. So that's what they're interested in. As soon as we mentioned that, oh, we add $1 per pound to cover delivery, a couple people were like, oh, so we have to pay delivery. And in today's world of online shopping, people have come to expect free delivery. So if you say free delivery, but you know you've built that into your prices to cover your expenses, they will feel better about it and they won't even question the price if you have this deep, loyal relationship with them. And you will get your cost covered. So you don't have to say it's more expensive when, you know, we deliver versus our farm store. They will, you know, that won't matter to them. And then we add $1 per unit, like a jar of fermented vegetables is $1 more expensive, or we add $1 to our jars of lard. All right, and then they also have to pay, before they can submit their order form, they are charged a $30 non-refundable deposit, non-refundable if they no-show. Now, if they give me a heads up a few, 48 hours in advance that they can't make it, and we haven't packed their order, of course, then we will, you know, refund that $30, or they can apply it to a future purchase. But it's, if they no-show, it's $30 charge. And that means we never have no-shows. When they stand to lose $30, they show up for that. So we don't have a problem getting people to show up. And that $30 just covers that we had to pack it up for them, haul it out. And then if they no-showed, we had to take it back and restock it. So it covers those expenses that we had to. And like I said, it's not a problem. People show up when you have that non-refundable deposit. And then I see a couple comments, and I'm just reading comments right now. So Wendy, you have the costs and then you discount if you pick it up. So we have a farm store already. I just covered that in the talk there, Wendy. We have our farm store and it's $1 more when we have our delivery, but I don't market, and I don't recommend you market based on discounts. So they just kind of know that if they come out to the farm store, they really don't even they don't check out the prices. So I think you're doing it right. You can say you offer a discount if they pick it up, but what that tends to do psychologically is make the people feel that you're delivering to like they got gypped out, they got shorted or something. So I don't even address that. We have our price for delivery and our price in the farm store. I don't point out that there's a difference, and people don't notice that there's a difference. Okay, and let's go back. So then we're on the deposit. Let's see, did I have any more to say about that? I think that's about it on the deposit, that they have to pay that in order to submit their order. And then what happens is a day before the delivery, so 24 hours in advance, they get an email reminding them of their pickup time and the address. I do a 10 a.m. time on a Saturday morning. Of course, if that's a weekday, you may have to do an evening, like 6 p.m., but I do not do a window. The reason is I don't need to stand there for 2 hours and let people come at their leisure. What I found is if I show up at 10 a.m., well, we show up 15 minutes early. There's a few people who are early, and there are a few people who are exactly on time, and then there's a few people who are late, and it works out that we have exactly, it just kind of flows, that we get all our meat orders paid for and picked up within about a 30-minute period. If we know we're having a big order, I'll have help with me. But I don't offer a window because we have frozen meat. I don't want a freezer trailer sitting out on the street while I'm standing there waiting for people to show up. And they honor that. So they show up and pick it up. It works out really well. Let's see. Okay, there's lots of questions coming in, so I'm going to get those that I can. Oh, Laura, on the USDA, you need to check with your state, okay? This is, in my state, I cannot deliver custom orders meat. So check with your Department of Agriculture and see what your laws are. And I do my deliveries. I have one customer. She's been a really good customer, and she offered her home for delivery. Now, we don't go in their home. We don't go in their driveway. We pull in the driveway if we have to. Otherwise, we just park in front of her house, and the deliveries are right there. And I offered to give her something, either, money or product. She refuses to take anything from me for that delivery, but I always take her a gift of, I know she likes our sausages and hamburger, and I know what she buys. So I always take her, probably about 5 pounds of meat for hosting there, but she doesn't even see us. She doesn't have to leave her house. We don't use their bathroom. We don't go in their house. It's really just a space, but people use all kinds of different spaces. There are people out in front of grocery stores, or there's a Michael's, craft store near us, and someone does an egg drop there. So you can find a place, but most of our people who have offered to do it have refused to take anything. So I just give them something as a gift too. And anyway, let's see. What else was I going to say on that? I think we're good on that slide. So let's go to the next one. So this is the preparation of each order. So when our orders come in for that day, we have them on an invoice, and they're all in alphabetical order by the last name. So when we get to the drop site, I can pull up my 12 invoices, for instance, and if their last name is Franklin, I go to the F and I hand them their invoice, and it's going to say your total is $200 minus the $30 deposit paid. You owe $170. And on our phones and our iPad, we have the Square app, and we just charge them for the balance of what they owe, and we do it right there. So we hand them their invoice, we charge them, they sign it, and then right on the invoice, it has which cooler it's in. So the bigger you get, a really great idea. Oh, and I should have said that our delivery is adapted from what I understand how Polyface Farms does their deliveries. So it's adapted from their process, and it works really well for us. So they're a lot bigger than us. So they do the military alphabet, like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie is written on every single cooler. So then when your customers get their invoice, when you hand it to them, it says Bravo or Charlie or Delta. And that means that once they've paid you, they walk over to the Delta cooler, for instance, with their own cooler. They unload their product out of your cooler, put the lid back on, and then they leave. They're done. Now, our deliveries are much smaller than Polyface Farms, so we just have numbered our coolers. The reason for the military alphabet is if you say, oh, my stuff is in cooler B, that sounds like D, or cooler P, you know, they all sound the same. So rather than just lettering them, when they put the military alphabet on there like that, it was very clear. You could say, oh, yours are over in Bravo cooler. You know, it was easier for them to understand. When you're smaller, though, you may not have to do that yet. But as you grow, that keeps it really super organized. And then, what was I saying? Oh, someone asked about how much time we spend at the drop site. And it's really important to interact with your customers if they aren't coming out to your farm store. So what I know as the farmer is people love to visit with me and or my husband. And so I'll take someone along to hand out the invoices, do the charges on the phone, oversee any problems or whatever, so that I can just stand there and chat with customers, because that is really important, because everything I do is based on relationship. And the only way I can build those relationships is if I'm standing there talking to them. So I don't have a job on the delivery day, except my main job is to focus on the customers and interact with them. So if someone mentioned that everyone wants to chat with them when they make deliveries, and yeah, that's actually really important for you to do. So just take some help so that the other person can be doing all the paperwork and charging while you chat with people, because that's just one of the most important things you could be doing. All right, and then I wanted to get into some tips that when we had this thread going on in the Profitable Farm Facebook group, some other farmers jumped in with some of their own personal tips. And Dan Kaplan, he says his prices for his beef sides and quarters are really high and the delivery is free. And he gets a lot of customers telling him free delivery was the key factor in turning them into a customer. And that's just how the world is today, you guys, because people are just so used to Amazon Prime, free delivery, or wherever it is. Everyone has to compete with free delivery, but just make sure, like Dan says, his meat is pretty high. It's priced pretty high. So you've got to build that. Even though you're offering free delivery, you still got to build those costs in somewhere, which is your time to pay your personal time, your time to pay the employee to stock everything. Of course, the driving expenses. So you've got to figure all that in there. And then Dan says, make it easy for the customer, which is the theme all the way through. It has to be simple and easy, or you will lose them. They just won't order. And Angela said, ensure your product will be sold. So Angela has groups of customers that come to the farm, but she has found the drop points are better. They offer a consistent schedule for getting rid of her milk, whereas the driving groups tend to think they can reschedule at their own leisure. So yeah, that's true. When you have a drop point and time, it is a very clear boundary. We are at our drop at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and if you aren't there, you lose your $30, which, that prepaid deposit, I would never do a delivery of something where they did not prepay a deposit, because you're just asking for trouble. You're asking for people that will reschedule or not be home or whatever. So we always take a deposit on those. And then Angela has a standing order system, so it's always the same unless they tell them it's going to be different. And she says it doesn't work perfectly every week, but most week it works pretty well. So that's important to flow and learn from the mistakes or learn from the problems. And as always, probably the tighter your boundaries can be, the better. And then Shauna Barr in Shasta, she recommended to hire or trade product for a drop site coordinator. So this is a person who is actually maybe going to do the coordination of everything I've talked about on here. And remember, this is all listed out in detail at 3cowmarketing/delivery. Yeah, and Hayden's going to post the link, but all the details of what we do, you could have a coordinator do this for you in trade for some meat or something like that. So when Shauna's herd share members live close to each other, she puts them in touch with a specific person who coordinates all the logistics, and then the coordinator gets a discount on their milk. So that's a great idea. If you have a customer who is willing to do that, many of ours will refuse to take any payment, but we give them product anyway. So especially if they do it in trade, that is really wonderful. And then Tracy set up guidelines for your customers to help out. So her stuff is mostly picked up at drop sites, and she keeps her coolers cold with tight-fitting lids. And she used to use refrigerators. Now, this is a really good learning lesson because I learned this lesson years ago. I had a drop point just like Tracy did where milk went into refrigerators. But since the customers knew it was in a refrigerator, then they stopped picking it up because they knew it would stay cold. So she has coolers, which means they have to pick it up within a few hours or it's not going to be cold. So great guidelines and continued strengthening of boundaries is really important when you're doing drops or deliveries. And then Casey, you won't make everybody happy. Always, always good to keep in mind. If someone doesn't work, if the procedure doesn't work for them, then they're not your ideal customer, and you can't just continuously bend over backwards for everybody. So Casey had a few people taking advantage of her customer service, so she finally had to draw the line. She let it bother her at first when they didn't continue buying from her, but then she saw them bargain shopping with neighboring farms and just laughed because nothing she did or didn't do was going to keep those people happy. Lesson learned. So we all learn that at some point when you've identified your ideal customer, it makes it really easy to let go of those people who are going to repeatedly take advantage of you. Makes it easy for you to say, oh, they aren't a good fit for our farm. I'm sure there's someone else out there that can serve them. And then you can better serve the customers you already have. And then Spencer, and I think Spencer's also in California with the Raw Milk Dairy. This is really good advice for those of you who aren't doing them yet. He says it always ended up taking longer than he expected it should have because customers running late or forgetting. And we were stuck in a very inflexible schedule on drop days. He said deliveries looked profitable until he checked out how much he should be paying himself for driving and dropping. And if that's just minimum wage, he's losing hundreds of dollars per month on the drop sites. He thinks he was losing over $1,000 per month. So it's really important to track all your expenses because they don't always pencil out. It's important to have a minimum and to build all your costs into the cost of the product that you're delivering. And then Angela says she does not use hosts. She goes to her community center, which has a pavilion, so it has shelter from rain and snow. And her husband or employee deliver for 1.5 hours on a Tuesday from 4:30 to 6. That way they can talk and interact with their customers. And it's busy. They get it done fast. They take everything home. One point they had a few customers volunteering after she had a baby, and they would not take discounts or free product. It pays to have good relations with your customers. This is what I found. Our customers who help us out have never wanted payment, but we do take really good care of them in product because we really appreciate their help. So this is a great example. Angela, it sounds like maybe they don't even have a farm store. Maybe the delivery is all they do every Tuesday. So how great is that? For 1.5 hours, they can focus and get it all done. Tracy says create a membership agreement. It works for her. Her drop site is from 5 to 8 on Tuesdays. And then if the customer can't pick up, they contact her or the host to make other arrangements. If they don't, then all the leftover items are given to the host with no refunds. So that's in their membership agreement and the drop site rules. She has a 24-hour cancel policy, although she's never enforced it. So see, I just love the repeated people pointing out of guidelines and boundaries and enforce those when if you have to. We've never had to enforce our lose your $30 deposit if you are a no-show, because nobody no-shows when they stand to lose their money and their product. So it's just super important to have all those things in order. And then Spencer also said that he stopped doing drop sites because it was costing them, over $1,000 per month. So they also encourage people to form groups that take turns picking up from the farm. And then some of those groups drive 45 minutes away. So it took them a while to figure out, but if your product is really high quality, people will drive an hour every week to get it, especially if you offer more than just one part of their diet. And that's what we find. Our customers average about an hour one way driving out to our farm, but they get most of their proteins there, their milk, eggs, and 3 different meats. So if you build these deep relationships with your people, your customers, and you understand that you're not competing by price, but you're solving their problems and their struggles and helping them out, you will find a tribe of people who are willing to make that trek out to the farm if you can't do the drop. So that's what they have realized they need to do. All right, so like I said, we wrote this all down in a step-by-step checklist. If you go to 3cowmarketing.com/delivery, everything I talked about today is listed on there. And Hayden's gonna help me get back to my face here. If you have any more questions, let us know, because we'll come back and answer these too. But otherwise, be sure to get the PDF download with all the details on there. And let me see if there's other. Robert says thumbs up. Thank you, Robert. You're welcome, Christine. And oh, Laura, you're in Oregon too. That's awesome. So yeah, you can't deliver. That was the question on the custom cuts. You can't deliver custom meat quarters and halves and things in Oregon. And let me see if there's other. I think that's it, everyone. So talk to you soon. We're in here